kindergarten friends. So today I get to tell you the best Bible story ever. The most exciting thing that has ever happened in the whole world. So we know that Jesus had cried, "It is finished." And then he had given up his spirit and he had died. Well, evening was coming, and the soldiers had to hurry and get down the bodies off the crosses. Usually, what they would do is they would break the legs of the criminals who were hanging on the cross because this would speed up the process. It would make them die sooner. And so the soldiers went and they broke the legs of one of the thieves and maybe went to the other thief and broke his legs as well. But when they got to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead, because he had given up his own life. But the soldier took his spear and he threw the spear through the side of Jesus. This was a test. They had to prove that he was dead before they took him off the cross. And when they threw the spear through his side, blood and water poured out of the wound. And this was proof that he had truly died. They began taking the bodies down off the cross. Two of Jesus's friends were there to help. There was Joseph of Arimathea. He was a follower of Jesus. He was a very, very wealthy man. And oh, he loved Jesus. And he had gone to Pilate and he had gotten special permission to take the body of Jesus and to bury it. Nicodemus was also there. Remember Nicodemus? He was the rich religious leader who went to Jesus at nighttime because he was afraid of getting in trouble by the other leaders. He had snuck out and met Jesus at night to question him. And Jesus had told Nicodemus, "You must be born again." Remember that story? Nicodemus, who followed Jesus, who was born again by being accepted into Christ's family. He was there. He loved Jesus so much. And he was going to help Joseph get the body ready for burial. So they took his body and they washed it with so much love and with so much tenderness. And then they wrapped his body very carefully in strips of cloth. And as they were wrapping his body, they would put spices in amongst the folds as the way that they would prepare. And then they laid his body on a shelf in the tomb. A tomb was a cave that had been chiseled out of stone. This was the cave that Joseph of Arimathea had made for his own family. Yet he was putting the body of Jesus in his own tomb. They laid the body on the shelf, and then they took a cloth. It was like a cloth napkin, and they laid it over the face of Jesus. And then they walked out of the tomb. They slid the stone in front of the opening. They were so sad. They couldn't believe that this had happened. What were they going to do now without Jesus? Pilate and the religious leaders and the crowd, the angry people, were so happy that Jesus was dead. But Pilate had remembered that Jesus had said that after 3 days he would rise again. And so Pilate said, "I think we need to seal the tomb and let's put soldiers outside to guard the tomb because we don't want his disciples coming and stealing his body and saying that he rose from the dead. So let's just be extra careful and stand guard." So soldiers went and they stood guard and they would take turns so that nobody would fall asleep and that they could stay awake and make sure that no one had stolen the body of Jesus. Pilate thought that he could keep Jesus in the grave. But early Sunday morning, while it was still dark, in that tomb, the best thing ever in the whole world to happen. Jesus rose from the dead. He went right through the grave clothes. He left those grave clothes just like a butterfly or a moth leaves its cocoon, just an empty shell lying on the rock in the shape of his body. Suddenly, there was an earthquake again, just like when the earth went dark and Jesus was having the sins laid upon him. This time, the earth shook as Jesus conquered death. He rose right up out of those grave clothes. He folded the cloth napkin that had been put upon his face, and then he just rose up and came out, and an angel appeared, and the angel rolled the stone away. And do you know what happened to those soldiers that were standing guard? They fainted. They fell flat on the ground out of fear. And then the beautiful angel, whose face was so brilliant, was sitting there. And when the soldiers woke up, they saw the angel and they saw the brightness, and they ran away as fast as they could to tell the religious leaders what had happened. But the religious leaders said, "Oh no, we cannot tell the truth." So they bribed the soldiers. They probably gave them a whole lot of money to lie. They told the soldiers, "You tell people that you fell asleep, and while you were sleeping, the disciples came and stole his body." And so that is what those soldiers did. They spread those lies about Jesus. Now, a little bit later, that same morning, 3 women who loved Jesus very much were on their way to the tomb. It was custom back then to go and to put more spices and more ointments on a dead body to show reverence and honor, and to also just to keep away the smell as well. And so the women were on their way to the tomb, and they were just feeling so sad and so alone. Well, when they got close enough, they could see that the stone was rolled away, and that the tomb was open. And Mary Magdalene, one of the women that was there, she did not stop to look and see what had happened. She just ran away as fast as she could so that she could tell Peter what she had seen, that the tomb was open and that his body, somebody must have stolen him. But the other 2 women who stayed, as they got closer, they saw that the tomb was empty. They didn't understand what was going on. They were so upset. But then an angel appeared again. And the angel said, "What are you doing? What are you looking for? Don't be afraid. Why are you standing here looking for the living among the dead? He is not here, for he has risen just as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and do not be afraid. Don't you remember that he told you he would die and that he would rise again on the 3rd day? Now, go your way. Go tell the disciples not to be sad. Tell them not to mourn anymore. Jesus is alive. He has risen, and you will see him again in Galilee." Oh, these 2 women were so excited now. They ran away so happy. They were rejoicing, and they just could not wait to get to the disciples and tell them about the angel and what they had seen. And when they got to the disciples couldn't believe it. They didn't believe it. They said, "No, no, you must be dreaming. This can't be." Now, there were 2 disciples who were not there when those women came to tell about the angel. It was Peter and John. Remember, Mary Magdalene had run away as soon as she had seen the stone rolled away, and she told Peter. And so Peter and John ran to the tomb. Now, John was younger and he was a faster runner. So he got to the tomb first and he saw that it was empty. And he saw something else that was so amazing to him. And as soon as Peter caught up, John said, look at this. Look at the grave clothes. Nobody has cut them away. No one has unwrapped them. They are laying there just as if Jesus' body was still in them, but his body is gone. And look how the napkin has been folded. If somebody would have stolen his body, they wouldn't have stopped to fold the napkin. And then Peter said, now I believe he has risen. And then the two men ran back to Jerusalem to tell the good news, and they were rejoicing as well. They were so excited and so happy. Well, Mary Magdalene, the one who had first seen the stone rolled away and then had gone back to town to tell Peter, she came back to the tomb again, all alone. She was crying. She was so sad. She just could not imagine what could have happened. Why would anyone take the body of Jesus away? As she stood there weeping, she looked into the tomb. And when she looked inside, she saw two white-robed angels sitting at the head and the foot of where Jesus was laying. The angels said, why are you crying? Because they have taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they have put him. Just then, Mary glanced over her shoulder. Someone was standing there. And that someone was Jesus. But Mary was so upset, she did not recognize that it was Jesus. She just thought that it was the gardener. And then Jesus said, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? And she said, please, sir, if you have taken him, could you please show me or tell me where he is so that I can get him? And then Jesus spoke one word. He spoke her name, Mary. And then Mary knew. She knew that it was Jesus. And she turned around and she fell at his feet. And she said, Master, is it really you? And Jesus said, yes, it is me. Now run, go tell the disciples. I am going to go see my Father, but I will come back and I will see you. And Mary went away so happy and so excited. It really was true. Jesus was alive. Jesus had the power to raise from the dead because he was God. And we know that only the power of God can battle death and win. Satan and sin were defeated. And we only need to believe in that power. We believe in that power, that God's power raised Jesus from the dead. He rose again for us, and we can live too. We can live forever in heaven and never be separated from God by believing that Jesus died and rose again for us. I surely hope that you believe.